In a world where space and time are intertwined, one man dared to challenge the status quo. His name? Dayton Miller. His weapon of choice, a flute. But not just any flute. This instrument held the power to unleash the ether, a pervasive medium once thought to fill the universe. Miller, a physicist by trade, a musician at heart, discovered a harmonic resonance within the ether. He found that his flute, when played with precision, could manipulate this elusive medium. His melodies, a symphony of science, had the potential to shift the very fabric of reality. However, a sinister force lurked in the shadows. The Einsteinian demons. These creatures thrived in the distortion of space-time, causing chaos and disruption. The world needed a hero, and Miller was ready to answer the call. With his flute in hand, Miller played a tune that echoed through the cosmos. Each note, a shot of pure ether, struck the Einsteinian demons, dispelling them back into the void. The world was saved, not by a warrior, but by a musician, a scientist.
to get laughed at, but
we're live.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to a very important, crucial Aether Cosmology Roundtable. I would say world-changing, important stuff, because tonight we're going to talk about the climate and about climate change and the climate emergency. Get ready for a Green New Deal. We're going to roll it out. Things are going to change around here. Get rid of your gas vehicles. Get ready to get yourself an EV. Anything. It doesn't even really have to be an electric vehicle, just as long as it has an institutional kill switch in which it can be disabled. And the same should go for your city in general. So without further ado, I'm going to play an edit of footage that I put together. We're going to watch this. It's like a kind of like a mini presentation, if you will. And I would ask that if you have questions or thoughts, maybe just try to jot them down in your note editor of choice, and then ask the questions at the end and bring the points up at the end, where we'll do a wide open discussion to talk about this very important issue of climate change. So let's go ahead and watch this video here.
I love it already.
Thank you for tuning in tonight for Aether Cosmology Roundtable number 39. And I want to start by letting you all know that things are going to change around here after tonight. After you have all been woken up to the problem of climate change anthropomorphically caused, you will all get rid of your gas vehicles, you will cease to eat bovines, and you will start probably eating bugs, and we're all going to make some big changes. We're going to kick things off here with our buddy Al Gore and the warnings he gave us 18 years ago. So, Al, without further ado, please let us know what we have to look forward to.
In 1992,
I
they
actually
measured this
saw
amount
this
of melting
in the theater.
Greenland. 10 years later, this is what happened. And here's the melting from 2005. Tony Blair's scientific advisor has said that because of what's happening in Greenland right now, the maps of the world will have to be redrawn. If Greenland broke up and melted, or if half of Greenland and half of West Antarctica broke up and melted, this is what would happen to the sea level in Florida. This is what would happen to San Francisco Bay. A lot of people live in these areas. The Netherlands, one of the low countries, absolutely devastating. The area around Beijing that's home to tens of millions of people. Even worse, in the area around Shanghai, there are 40 million people. Worse still, Calcutta and to the east, Bangladesh, the area covered includes 60 million people. Think
There's
of the
a
impact
billion in each country.
of
That's
a couple hundred
nothing.
thousand refugees when they're displaced by an environmental event. And then imagine the impact of 100 million or more.
Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk puts his money where his mouth is.
I am personally guaranteeing that value and standing behind that guarantee with all of my assets.
His greatest asset is his ability to take this big, big dream and make other people believe that it's true.
The determined engineer's big dreams transformed 3 industries.
I'm just wishing to any entities that are listening, please bless this launch.
You know, here's an immigrant from South Africa coming to America to say, you know, NASA, that whole rocket thing you're doing with the space shuttle, I've got a better way.
His better way meant risking everything.
We had maybe about a week's worth of cash in the bank, or less. I had to make a choice then that either I took all of the capital that I had left from the sale of PayPal to eBay and invest that in Tesla, or Tesla would die.
Others weren't so willing to take a chance on him or his companies.
You put $90 billion, like 50 years worth of breaks into solar and wind, to Solyndra and Fisker and Tesla and Enter1. I mean, I had a friend who said you don't just pick the winners and losers, you pick the losers.
It's very unlikely that the Tesla investment is ever repaid to the taxpayers. Electric vehicles are really not possible in ways that would be effective for most consumers still.
But his bets have paid off.
We didn't just repay the principal, we actually repaid it with interest and a bonus payment. So ultimately, the U.S. taxpayer actually made a profit of over $20 million on this loan.
Elon Musk has even bigger dreams that might just take him farther than anyone else.
Elon Musk goes a step further. Earth's not big enough. With SpaceX, he literally wants to go to Mars.
And long term, I'd really love to go to Mars, and that's the overarching goal of SpaceX.
Amazing pictures from space. Elon Musk pulls off an engineering feat. He sent his own kind of rocket man on board a Tesla Roadster into orbit. Elon Musk has outdone himself this time.
But this is much more than a publicity stunt involving just a car in space. Let's start with the science. This afternoon, SpaceX launched the world's most powerful rocket, and it's a major milestone for the company. And this is a live look at what's happening right now in space. That's Elon Musk's own
Where's the
Tesla
rear view?
convertible in orbit. The driver is a mannequin he's calling Starman. But CBS reporter Manuel Borroquez shows us
Dude,
what
that is
came
amazing.
down is also making news.
27 rocket engines fired at once, sending the Falcon Heavy into space, and the SpaceX crew into applause.
Well, if you could hear all that cheering, it was an outstanding test flight of the Falcon Heavy.
The mega rocket combines the power of 3 SpaceX rockets into one, generating over 5 million pounds of thrust, enough to launch a 737.
It's a very big step forward, and we hadn't seen a rocket this powerful since the space shuttle retired back in 2011.
SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk spoke with CBS space analyst Bill Harwood Monday at the launch pad.
Why does the country need this rocket?
I think this rocket's great for a lot of reasons. It's something that I think inspires the public, and you could actually send people back to the moon with the Falcon Heavy, with the orbital refueling, send people to Mars.
The payload on this test launch is Musk's Midnight Cherry Tesla Roadster, with a dummy named Starman. It's headed for an elliptical orbit around the sun that extends as far out as Mars, and it could remain in orbit for hundreds of millions of years. And the side boosters that got the Falcon Heavy into space, Musk got them back intact. They stuck their landings at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Manuel Bojorquez, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center.
All right, we got to show you more live pictures from space. Coming up in about 90 minutes, if all goes well, rockets on board will fire again, sending the Roadster on its way towards Mars.
Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary Miller here with Chris Hellman, a senior editor here at Forbes, here to tell us all about carbon tax. Thank you so much for joining me today, Chris.
Good to be here.
So Chris, Elon Musk made a tweet this week saying that the only action needed to solve climate change was a carbon tax. For starters, what is a carbon tax?
Well, in simplest terms, it's when the government charges you a fee for the amount of carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases that you emit into the atmosphere. Carbon taxes around the world most often take the form of a tax on fuels that are made out of hydrocarbons or fossil fuels, like gasoline or diesel or heating oil. So, if you like to drive a big truck that burns a lot of diesel, it would only make sense that you pay a little bit more of a carbon tax than someone who uses a plug-in hybrid.
Mm-hmm. And so do we have a carbon tax in the U.S. currently?
Well, not on the federal level, Rosemary, but there is like a patchwork of laws and mandates that states have decided on. I was looking at an analysis by the Tax Policy Center, and they were considering the effect that various rules across the United States have on average. And they said it comes out to about $5 per ton of carbon dioxide emitted. That's about like where the all this bundle of taxes and regulations stands today. But California has a lot of other rules that govern the kind of fuel that gas stations can sell. They mandate cleaner burning gasolines, so it costs refiners more to make fuel in California, and then the refiners pass those costs along to motorists when they fill up. So they're paying kind of an indirect carbon tax in California to have that cleaner fuel that's mandated by the states. There's different ways to get at it.
So is this the reason California has the cleanest power grid in the nation, right?
Well, they pretty much do. That kind of got underway about 15, 20 years ago when California first started imposing a carbon cap and trade system. That's where the power utilities have to trade the right to emit amongst each other. And if the state caps that amount every year, then over time they've managed to get a less carbon intensive power grid.
Tonight across California, the lights are on for now, on the brink of blackouts again as power demand reached an all-time record high overnight. Slivers of the Golden State plunged into darkness. Small regions, including parts of Silicon Valley, briefly lost electricity. The vast majority of the state, though, narrowly averting disaster.
Yesterday was the highest demand that we've ever seen in the state of California.
Dave Eisenhower, who helps monitor the flow of electricity across Southern California, says these are unprecedented times.
These hotter days just create a lot of demand on the grid. It means our equipment has to work harder. It means generators have to work harder.
As the state tries to manage a tangled web of thousands of miles of high voltage lines that feeds electricity to 80% of California, the complex and fragile system only staved off rolling blackouts after a plea for conservation, which included a first, emergency alerts that immediately curbed demand.
Those text messages went out, people reduced energy, and they got us through.
Now the grid faces another critical test today. More than 1 million in Northern California sweltering in temperatures above 110 degrees. And after 9 days of triple-digit heat, 50 million will broil through brutal conditions Wednesday and the rest of the week.
We just bought like 2 ACs for the house.
Facing dangerous days, there may be no better example of climate extremes than California's capital, hitting a record 116 degrees Tuesday. In the past 12 months, Sacramento marking its longest dry streak, its wettest day in history, and now the hottest. Tonight, a summer of extremes and another night on the brink.
And Miguel, we know you're in triple digits where you are right now. How is the electricity grid holding up at this point?
Well, Lester, California is again on the verge of blackouts. The good news, the demand for power sits just under the available supply, but authorities are saying Californians must conserve power tonight to keep the lights on.
This is Star Talk. Hi, I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm an astrophysicist with the American Museum of Natural History, and I'm host of Star Talk Radio. Welcome back to Star Talk Radio. And it's fighting all these air molecules. Like, what's up with that? We win. Astrophysicists win. Oh! Yeah, I said it. Snap! Bada bing! Wow, I'm getting it! Yeah, as I've said before, the good thing about science, when a consensus of experiment emerges, the good thing about science is that it's true whether or not you believe in it. And climate change has taken on political dimensions, has taken on cultural, social dimensions. And that's odd because I don't see people choosing sides over equals MC squared or other fundamental facts of science. But the experimental consensus is there that human beings, by virtue of our conduct, burning sources of carbon, fossil fuels among them, that have been buried for millions of years, we burn them. Carbon previously underground is now in the atmosphere, and that source of carbon makes carbon dioxide. A greenhouse gas is warming the Earth. We are warming, and that comes with consequences. By the way, Earth will survive this. People say, save the Earth. No, don't worry about Earth. Earth will be here long after we render ourselves extinct. What happens is we're changing the climate faster than our culture may be able to respond. One of the consequences is you melt ice caps. The water levels rise. Not inches, not feet, but tens of feet. And that will begin to flood coastlines. Some of the most important cities in the world were built on coastlines for the very reason that that's how you accomplish trade. It's what made those ports successful. So the very foundation of our civilization requires coastlines that existed at a time when there was not global climate change, the kind that would be warming the Earth. So get ready for that. It's going to redraw the maps of the world unless we do something about it. Venus suffers from a runaway greenhouse effect. It's 900 degrees on Venus, not simply because it's closer to the sun than us. It's not that much closer. It's a little bit closer. It's got nearly 100% CO2 in its atmosphere, and that atmosphere is 100 times as dense as ours. So heat comes in, it does not come out, and the temperature rises.
Now, while we never really did see this sea level rise that they predicted, we did get natural disasters. And apparently, nowadays, every natural disaster is directly attributable to climate change. Now, before we started using carbon and realized our own carbon being, our own carbon makeup, these things didn't happen. But now that we know about carbon, these things have to be attributed to climate change. And I would just pause real quick and say, whatever the cause of this was, I don't even know.
We're kind of just dealing with the worst case scenario as far as like wind and weather. You've got multiple incidents, so we're spreading our fire resources very thin. And so in the past several decades, as agriculture kind of declined, this is across the state, these spaces fill in with tons, literally tons of fuel. And these grassy fuels are highly sensitive to quick drying out, and when the, really easy to ignite. Hotter conditions, drier conditions, more variable rainfall, it's only going to exacerbate the problem. But the good news in the sense of the fuel problem is that that's within our control, right? There are actions that we can take that would reduce that vulnerability, that would make conditions safer.
So you have dry vegetation, that is, when there's a spark, it's easier for that vegetation to ignite and for the wildfire to spread. Climate change in many parts of the world is increasing vegetation dryness, in large part because temperatures are hotter. In some cases, because precipitation patterns are changing.
and the risk for large fire potential was higher there than it was in California.
That's San Jose State University meteorology professor Craig Clements. The National Weather Service had also issued warnings for the Hawaiian Islands for high winds and dry weather. Add to that the unusually high temperatures this summer, in part due to climate change, in part due to the El Nino warming event.
And you'll see this with basically any natural disaster nowadays. It will, in some way, shape, or form, be attributed to climate change. Interestingly, as we'll see in a little bit here, during the Dust Bowl and in droughts previous to that, swaths of people moved into areas in the Midwest and lower western regions of the United States, thinking that the precipitation rates would stay steady. But that's not what happened. During both the Dust Bowl and during the drought in the 1800s, there was a problem where the climate simply changed. The precipitation slowed, the precipitation stopped. And that's what the climate does, always has done, and always will do, is change. And to make assertions about what the climate should do is, in my opinion, quite hubristic. But I also don't question Bill Nye the Science Guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Klaus Schwab, and all the other brilliant consensus scientists. So I'm a little bit stuck. Let's kick it over to Robot Polisher.
By the year 2000, we expect we would be in an unprecedented new climatic regime, different from anything in the recorded history of mankind.
We are over ready for a return of the ice.
Arctic cold and perpetual snow could turn most of the inhabitable portions of our planet into a polar desert.
We can say with confidence that we are currently heading toward another ice age.
It is due now anytime.
It's hard for me to imagine a more serious environmental issue.
The argument that we face some long, cold years is pretty convincing.
According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected.
By the year 2000.
One question we as a people need to decide is how we react when we hear warnings from the leading scientists in the world.
The world is heating up fast, and we have ourselves to blame.
Global warming.
Global warming is real, and we humans are almost certainly the cause.
A federal report today predicted possible catastrophic warming of the Earth by the 1990s with the strong climate change.
One scientist put the urgency of the greenhouse potential in biblical terms.
Books warn that the Earth is under fire. A suicidal planet's approaching a boiling point and a toxic burn. Children are frightened.
I worry. My mom worries the water might rise and it might flood the whole town.
We won't be able to survive for long.
We'll probably just drown and we'll die. We'll all die. The Earth is getting hotter.
I saw the Al Gore video.
This is Mount Kilimanjaro more than 30 years ago and more recently. And a friend of mine just came back from Kilimanjaro with a picture he took a couple months ago. Within the decade, there will be no more snows of Kilimanjaro. This is happening in Glacier National Park. Within 15 years, this will be the park formerly known as Glacier.
Glacier National Park removing those signs around the park stating all the glaciers would be melted by 2020.
A new scientific study shows that for the first time, they're finding polar bears that have actually drowned, swimming long distances, up to 60 miles to find the ice.
Sorry.
And they didn't find that before. Coral reefs all over the world, because of global warming, they end up like this. And all the fish species that depend on the coral reefs are also in jeopardy as a result.
Long-term monitoring by the Australian Institute of Marine Science shows the best coral growth since they've been monitoring it over the past 36 years.
Is it possible that we should prepare against other threats besides terrorists? Maybe we should be concerned about other problems as well.
Global warming is now, by anybody's measure, a crisis.
The debate's over. The science is agreed upon.
The climate is changing and fast,
This is a life and death matter.
The debate is over, and the science is in.
1,000 scientists.
2,000 scientists.
2,500 scientists say the globe is getting warmer, and we are to blame.
We have Holocaust deniers, we have climate change deniers, and to be honest, I don't think there's a great deal of difference.
Deniers are confusing the issue and delaying solutions.
Good morning.
The illusion of a debate has been purchased with millions of dollars a year.
The debate's over. The debate's over.
928 peer-reviewed articles, 0% disagreed with the consensus.
The scientific consensus is that it's real.
Well, there is no consensus in science. Science isn't a vote. Science is about facts. And if you get down to the hard, cold facts, there's no question about it. Climate change is not happening. There is no significant man-made global warming now. There hasn't been any in the past, and there's no reason to expect any in the future. After I got on the air and got a chance to talk to your viewers, hello everybody. There is no global warming.
What I do wonder is when you see the government, when you see NASA, when you see other institutions say that 97% of climate scientists agree, do you think they're making it up?
97% of the scientific reports published support global warming. Why? Because those are the ones the government pays for, and that's where the money is.
Real simple, son.
But that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't make it true. That only makes it bought and paid for. The money goes in circles.
I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to try to refute you on
that's
the facts.
The truth.
I'll simply...
And so far, 31,000 scientists have signed a petition that says it is not valid, that my position is correct. And we'll keep battling, and we will prevail in time, but I don't know if we'll do it in my lifetime.
Each one of us is a cause of global warming. This is really not a political issue so much as a moral issue.
We can make choices to bring our individual carbon emissions to zero.
Carbon. First link in the chain of living things, chain of living things. The carbon atom is unique, for it alone combines with itself and other elements in millions of intricate structures to form the complex molecules of organic compound.
So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. So we have to go from rapidly rising to falling and falling all the way to zero.
Carbon. First link in the chain of living things.
This is something that has to get to zero.
What gets us into trouble is not what we don't know, it's what we know for sure that just ain't so. So no wonder people are confused.
Not everybody can be a robot polisher.
Oh, hold on just a minute. I'm not done.
It's
That's
infinite.
what I was looking for. Yeah.
It's infinite because the Earth makes oil. It isn't like the old days people said, oh, it's from dead dinosaurs. That's not from dead dinosaurs. Right. The Earth produces the oil.
Like Mark Twain said, it's easier to fool someone than it is to convince them they've been fooled. Because if you convince them they've been fooled, it shocks their own intelligence. It shocks their esteem of themselves. When you fool someone, they don't feel stupid because they never know that they were duped. Get them to realize they've been fooled is to get them to admit that they were not as intelligent as they thought they were when they were making decisions, and it's very difficult.
All right, so yes, this is a photo of me. This was taken in 2013 when I traveled to Washington, D.C. to protest the Keystone XL pipeline. I think it's more embarrassing that I have that weird chin strap, maybe even more than the correlation equaling causation thing that I'm holding in my hand. Change is possible. Now let's get this off the screen. I don't feel that way about this topic anymore, but I did just want to show it, I guess, just to show that people are capable of change. Now, moving on.
The Dust Bowl was a severe period of drought and dust storms throughout the 1930s. Why did the Dust Bowl happen? How severe was the damage? The earliest explorers to the Great Plains region of North America determined that the area was unsuitable for agriculture. The territory even became known as the Great American Desert because the lack of trees and water made the region relatively unattractive for settlement. However, in the decades following the Civil War, farmers began to settle the region and cultivate the fields under the long-held but mistaken belief that rain will follow the plow. In the first 3 decades of the 1900s, there were significant and continuous advances in farming technology, including better tractors, mechanized plowing, combines, and more. From 1900 to 1920, the amount of farmland in the Plains region doubled, and from 1925 to 1930, the amount of cultivated land tripled. However, farmers of the era used practices which deprived the soil of its nutrients and increased the possibility of erosion. The heavy plowing had eliminated the natural grasses of the prairie that held the soil in place and maintained moisture. Then, in 1930, a severe drought struck the Great Plains region, which lasted nearly the entire decade. The regions affected most by this drought were the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, western Kansas, and a large portion of Colorado and New Mexico. The more than 1 million acres that was affected became collectively known as the Dust Bowl. As the drought grew worse, the topsoil turned to dust and blew away. The blowing dust generated enormous dust storms that reached as far east as Washington, D.C. The dust storms became known as black blizzards. During the decade of the 1930s, the Dust Bowl region received anywhere from 15 to 25% less precipitation than normal. For a region that only sees about 20 inches of rain a year, this means that some areas were receiving as little as 15 inches of rain in 1 year. In some years, even less than that. As the decade wore on, and the severity of the Dust Bowl increased, efforts were made to correct the conditions. The Civilian Conservation Corps planted more than 200 million trees from Texas to Canada in an attempt to block the wind and hold the soil in place. Farmers were also instructed in soil conservation techniques such as crop rotation, contour plowing, and terracing. In some cases, the government even paid farmers $1 an acre to practice one of these conservation techniques. By the end of the 1930s, they had succeeded in reducing the amount of blowing dust by 65%. By the time rainfall returned to normal levels, nearly 75% of the topsoil had been blown away in some areas. It would be years before the region recovered completely.
Professor Stephen Hawking and other scientists believe that to secure the future of the human species, we must colonize another planet.
To stay risks annihilation. It could be an asteroid hitting the Earth.
Wait, what did he say?
It could be a new virus.
Of the topsoil had been blown.
Professor Stephen Hawking and other scientists believe that to secure the future of the human species, we must colonize another planet.
To stay risks annihilation. It could be an asteroid hitting
Hold on, what did he say?
It could be a new virus.
To stay
Climate
risks
change,
annihilation.
Nuclear war. Artificial intelligence gone rogue. We can and must use our curiosity and intelligence to look to
Can we
the
get his
stars.
translator out here, though?
We must do it now before humanity is overtaken by some disaster that we can neither anticipate nor control.
For humans to survive, we need to find a planet that's rocky and about the same size and density as the Earth, so that its gravity will be similar to our own. Then, the crucial thing we need to sustain life is liquid water at the surface. That means we need to find a planet that orbits in the habitable zone of its star, the distance where the temperature is just perfect for liquid water.
Yeah, good luck with that.
What are the odds of that?
For our sun, a yellow dwarf star, the habitable zone stretches from around the orbit of Venus to the orbit of Mars.
You guys sound like you don't trust
right in the middle.
Mr. Hawking.
We now know that there is a planet
No,
around
to
our
be honest,
star
I
next
do,
to
and now I am
that could be
terrified. The
suitable for
proper tone.
colonization. Welcome to Proxima B. It's a little more massive than the Earth, and it's almost certainly a rocky planet.
Oh?
And there might just be liquid water at the surface. Proxima B might be our best destination for mankind's new home.
I like to rock the party.
But although it's our nearest planet, Proxima B is still a very long way away. Getting there, even with the fastest rockets we have today, would take thousands of years. Professor Hawking believes this will be one of our biggest hurdles.
I have no doubt that
Is that
we
what he
will
said?
eventually find ways of crossing the immense distances of space in just a few years.
What a genius, guys.
One of our species' great strengths is embracing new ideas and evolving them into cutting-edge technologies. Just look at advances we've made in the fields of medicine, communications, and electronics. We only built the first silicon chip 60 years ago. Now it powers just about every aspect of our lives. Our ingenuity will get us to Proxima B.
But as far as here goes, we're screwed.
Was that a single tear at the end?
All right. So there we
Dude,
go.
that guy's Italian. You guys know that? That dude is Italian. He's not an Indian.
I did not know that.
Well,
yeah.
did you guys know that the less carbon intensive grid that California has was because we paid them more money over the last 10 years? That, I think, was wonderful.
It was
like,
the-
what marvelous things.
It was the one time the government just kept legislating something and everything kept getting better.
Whoa, that's awesome.
With no diminishing return or nothing. It just every year they were like, you know what?
Right.
We brought it down. What do you say we go even lower, boys? And they were like, all right, let's do it, government. Woohoo! And they just kept doing it.
Yo, and then the dude that got to use his electric vehicle company as his piggy bank, or the stock for his electric vehicle company as his piggy bank, bought the primary form of communication. Isn't that cool too?
That's pretty funny.
That's so cool.
That's kind of funny. Dude, I thought it was cool that natural disasters are caused by climate change. So like, de facto, the Hawaii sky laser fires are caused by your failure to pay the government more money.
Well, you did.
Yep.
I got it. I'm getting it. Dude, I was terrified the whole time, actually.
He was like,
the rich people's house didn't burn, so it must be something to do with money. You got to pay them taxes.
I like how they brought in that lady and she's like, what is a carbon tax anyway? Like, what's this newfound language we're talking about? And dude's like, well, to break it down simply, the government wants to charge you for existing.
It's like, so there are these precipitation patterns, see, right? And they can go one of two ways for you guys, okay? Hawaii sky lasers can burn you to the ground, or you can give us more carbon tax money. Precipitation patterns will determine all.
Yeah, we didn't touch on 15-minute cities, but it's another thing that I think kind of fits in with all of it, right? Is just all about having control. And when your car has a kill switch and your city has a kill switch, and in a lot of ways, these things are built, or maybe just conveniently, ironically, perfectly allow for control mechanisms. But there's a reason that you should be skeptical of having a kill switch in your vehicle and having your vehicle be online on like a subscription service or something. And same with your city in which you live.
And the self-driving is freaky as hell, man, because they could lock the doors and just take you anywhere, man.
But isn't it cool that like all the places they wanted to have a 15-minute city actually had the required precipitation patterns to cause all those fires? Isn't that a wonderful coincidence how it worked out that way?
Hey, that's climate change for you, man. We could predict it.
Yeah, predict it. Yeah, that's
and this whole thing of the carbon footprint is really, really, really sinister. This idea that everything you do essentially pushes us closer to the brink of extinction and the brink of annihilation, and your breath, the very, very act of exercising and breathing, is contributing to climate change. And eating delicious bovine steaks is contributing to climate change because of their methane output. And
You know what?
yeah, go
You know
ahead.
what? Cows don't fart. They burp, but they don't fart.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Well, dude, there goes all of mainstream science. How is climate change then? How is it working? It's like how am I causing it then? Oh wait, you know how I'm causing it? In 1991, a bunch of freaking rich people who like to get to huddle hoods and talk about occult stuff got together, published a book called The First Global Revolution, and they were like, how can we make a common enemy to push our agenda called climate change onto mankind? They were like, ooh, in quote, in searching for a common enemy against whom we can unite, we came with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. In their totality and their interactions, these phenomena do constitute a common threat, which must be confronted by everyone together. Boom, first global revolution. Dude, you got to trust those men that get together in robes and talk about our future for the benefit of all, you know?
Yeah.
Check my post in the main chat there, Toby. It's an interesting little panel of scientists who actually start to speak some statistical truth.
Oh,
it's a very, very effective little video.
Let me go ahead and download it, and I'll play it and share it here.
Wonder what all the people in India who worship the cow think about their cow farts and how it's burning down the world, man. How come we don't hear their opinion on this?
Because they have a billion humans farting as well. I mean, it doesn't even show up how many cows are farting. They don't.
All right, I'm gonna play this here.
We got magical parts that don't cause stuff.
Yeah, Toby, what would happen if we all farted all at once? Like, how would that impact the climate? Would an ice cap melt, or
what's that?
What's that?
Dr. Tim Ball, an historical climatologist, sent me one sentence, which I think is beautiful to end this particular topic if you want to go on to others. He said, you can mention that it was warmer than today for at least 95% of the last 10,000 years. That's what he said.
James?
Yes.
I hope people watching this get the idea that there's a lot of data on the other side, that we're all fighting to get in pieces of data because there's so much to say. And I just want to read something that they should read this at the Climate Summit. I think they should really read this today to describe what's going on. And this is from a reliable source, American Meteorological Society Monthly Weather Review publication, that the Arctic Ocean is warming up. Icebergs are growing scarcer, and in some places the seals are finding the water too hot, according to a report by the Commerce Department at Bergen, Norway. Reports from fishermen, sea hunters, explorers all over point to radical change in climate conditions. Why aren't they reading this? And hitherto unheard of temperatures in the Arctic zone. Exploration expeditions report scarcely any ice as far north as 81 degrees. Soundings show the Gulf Stream very warm. Masses of ice have been replaced by moraines of earth and stones, and it goes on and on. Within a few years, it's predicted that due to the ice melt, the sea will rise and make most coastal cities uninhabitable.
What year was that written?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. This is 1922. This is November 1922, and this is real. This is not urban legend.
Wow. Yeah.
This has really happened. This was really reported. It was warm then. And then guess what happened after that, of course?
Dude, it's like they tried it, dry run. They were like, people ain't buying it. Put it away. Bring it out in 80 years.
Well, the Monthly Weather Review.
Meteorological Society publication.
These were all facts. It was
They were like, people are too smart right now. We got to dumb them down a little bit more, and we'll try it a little bit.
Tom, for a second here. Okay. Tom mentioned 90%. What's 90% of the time since the Ice Age, the Earth was warmer than it is now. Actually, 90% of the time since creation, the Earth was warmer than it is now, because the geological evidence indicates that over all of geologic history, 4.65 billion years, somewhere between 5 and 10% of that time, was there any substantial ice on Earth. And now there is. There's Greenland, Antarctica, and then summer ice all over the planet, well, lots of places.
Did you say
so? You're talking 5 or 10% of the time was the planet cooler than it is now.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we're at one of the lowest levels of CO2 in Earth's history. Okay,
Yes,
that's really
very good
important.
point.
I mean, 440 million years ago, when we were in the depths of the coldest period in the last half billion years, we had 1,100% of today's CO2 levels, according to geologic proxies. So, yeah, CO2 is very low right now. They say 40% rise in the last century since 1880. Well, that's peanuts in natural terms.
Well, then
So-
we should be very
Wasn't
glad
there a
that
Carboniferous?
The carbon dioxide in this room is now around 900. Now, either we should be happy about it or perhaps evacuate the room for fear that there's something bad about it. There's nothing bad about carbon dioxide. The more, the better.
Dude, shout out to the
Wasn't that
boys.
fun?
Yeah. Wow.
Those the old Aether boys.
1922.
Those are all of our grandpas, dude, sitting around rapping.
That's crazy. Toby, a question came in for you from Telegram.
All right.
Posted it on the text chat.
All right. Let's see here. CO2 emissions, 0.04% of the Earth's atmosphere is CO2. Of that, less than 4% is emissions caused by human beings, which means human CO2 emissions amount to 0.0016% of the Earth's atmosphere. The figure of less than 4% emissions is an AI-generated search result. Where is the evidence in science to back this up, please? I had additional questions in my earlier post an hour ago, but this one I think is the most important to me right now. I mean, well, I would redirect you to my my poster. Honestly, like
Science is clear.
it's a big game of correlation equals causation, and their deductions about ppm of carbon, right? It's all a big game of math, as far as I understand it.
I saw one for asking about what is the dangerous levels, and they came up with that, and they're like, I think they said they need 0.02% just to sustain life, and if we're at 0.04, we should be at 0.03. So it's like, what are you guys worried about?
Yeah, I mean, there's a balancing act that would occur, right? There's as the CO2 would go up, plant life would become abundant, and then after plant life becomes abundant, the oxygen levels would equalize. And I mean, that's the system has its own defensive mechanisms for these things.
Self-correction is the term you're looking for, Toby.
Yes.
You're quite right.
Yes.
That curve would meet and self-attenuate, that the more CO2 there is, the more plants grow, and the more plants grow, the more CO2 they process and turn it into oxygen. It's the cycle that you're encouraging by creating more CO2. This is why agriculture has gone the way of buying CO2 and flooding their growing areas with it to up production, because CO2 is vital to biological process when we're talking about, leafy green things. It's crazy. Final note, your picture, your point of embarrassment, I think is less of a testament to you and more to the efficacy of the propaganda machine.
Yeah. Right. I was definitely not immune to the propaganda. I even studied that crap at community college for a while. So, yeah. Oh, I was muted to the stream, but not to Discord. But I just said, yeah, I was not immune to the propaganda, as we see. And I even studied that crap at community college for a while. I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And, I think people they want something to have a cause for or whatever. They think it's saving the world or whatever. So they gravitate to something that's easy to get upset about.
I think that's the common theme for most of us when it comes to post-secondary education. We paid for that information.
Dude, how about going into debt for it? Like, I borrowed money to pay someone on that debt information.
Right.
Yeah, and could still be paying.
That's an inconvenient truth. That's funny.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention the reason I brought up the Dust Bowl. I just like the story. I actually think that the drought in the I want to say the 1840s is better because it's more directly just a bunch of people expected the rain to stay a certain way, and it didn't, and then they just like all went totally bankrupt and starved because they just didn't expect the climate to change, which I think is funny. But Nick Cage, what you mentioned was super interesting about the dams there, and I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Dude, 92,000 dams in America. It's the stupidest thing I ever saw in my life. You talk about that drought. Was it a drought, or did someone just say, "Hey, you're not going to get any water in that area anymore"?
Yeah, well, if you suddenly dammed up all the rivers, that would obviously affect precipitation everywhere.
Right? It does seem like you suddenly dammed up all the water, and then all of a sudden there was a dust bowl.
Yeah.
They started construction on this in 1929 during the Depression, and in 1930 we got a dust bowl. But they don't ever mention that, hey, we started a crazy project of building 92,000 dams. So, I mean, I find it weird that I got through all of school, 53 years of my life, and never once heard this. I think that alone is man's greatest. I think that's more amazing and more an achievement than putting a freaking ISS in space.
Man,
I think it warrants a mandate at the federal level that all of these dams, where appropriate, should be converted and updated for hydroelectric power production. And the surrounding communities should depend on it, that there should be a certain flow rate coming through that dam because of their own electrical needs, and that would encourage downstream flow.
I thought they already were producing.
They actually say that the majority of these 92,000 dams are hydroelectric dams, which makes me wonder why we're blackouts and why we aren't the world's leader in energy production.
I agree. One does not equate to the other, does it?
So 92,000 electric dynamo, like electric producing dams. We have 203 coal burning power plants that produce what 16% of the total power. How much percent total power is produced by the dam? Is it zero or what? What's going on with that?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think these dams produce. I mean, obviously, water can be electric and probably produce some sort of electricity, but the amount they're trying to give these things is not adding up, man. It's not adding up.
Are they saying that they don't produce any of our power, or like a tiny portion, or what's their story? Do you know?
Well, they're saying that they don't say how much of a percentage they provide power, but on a just one dam, the Grand Kool-Aid Dam. I mean, you can go YouTube this thing and watch like 40 Faces. The stupidest thing you'll ever watch, man. But they built this dam during the Depression. They even said, hey, if your workers aren't doing good, we got guys over here that can take your job. So apparently just being out of work and needing money gives you the ability to build just the most awesome structures ever in the history of mankind. But what they did is they took it's at the Columbia River, which is one of the most powerful rivers. They were able to divert it, make cofferdams, build this ridiculous things. And when they were finished, they said, you know what? We should build a portion on top of it to make it hydroelectric so we can make some money. So they kind of built two dams. Let's build a second portion. We've got to make some money.
Reminds me of movie Contact. Why not build two at twice the cost?
It's stupid, man. They would have to. They got bolts on here that are like 5 foot long, 5 inches in diameter. And what they do, just call up and say, yo, man, I need like 10 5-inch bolts. It's like, come on, you have to machine that stuff on. You got to build this stuff to the environment. There ain't no machine shops. They didn't have the equipment. They didn't have they couldn't do any of that. It's logistically impossible. It's stupid. I could not believe I don't know why, but I heard that America had the most dams, and for some reason it was just like an ear tick in mine. So find out how many dams. I don't care. I was like everybody else. We probably got like 3 more dams than everybody else. Like, I wonder how many dams we got. 92,075 dams. Okay, whatever. That's okay. That's cool. Cool. We don't need to know about that.
Yeah, it's super intriguing, man.
You tell us the people, the normies and stuff, and they're like, so
Dude, so
Yeah, they're like, so what? Yeah.
so the Dust Bowl was totally normal and it sprung up right in time for them to wield it and threaten the rest of the world to coerce them to do exactly what they wanted. It's like, dude, thank God the good guys win every war. This is like amazing history.
Dude, that part, the best part right there, the good guys win everywhere.
Thank God, man, because what kind of a world will we live in otherwise?
Where would we go for our porn?
The Jew World Order joke is pretty funny.
That's seriously, that's stupid. That's just absolutely retarded.
That dams thing, though, like, so did the dams already exist? Did they find a bunch of dams and they were like, listen, we built 92,000 dams right when we pretended that the world ran out of water, but it's unrelated.
I'm telling you, man. I think everything in that Bible happened here.
What? What? You think the government controls the weather?
No way. Way.
Yeah, that's another thing I didn't even touch on tonight, but I mean, obviously, it's weird to me. I don't really get it. Like, I remember learning about it in, I want to say, middle school. I remember learning about cloud seeding. It's a pretty simple concept when you first learn about how rain works and about what a condensation nuclei is. They tell you about cloud seeding as part of getting you to understand how cloud works and how precipitation works. And they tell you, like, oh yeah, sometimes they fly an airplane up there and they shoot some solids into the atmosphere, and that allows all the rain particulates to coalesce and fall. And if you didn't do that, sometimes you wouldn't get rain, and sometimes in certain areas they need rain, so they'll just shoot some particulates up there, and it'll allow the condensation nuclei to be reached.
Sounds all awesome.
And they act like it's a normal thing to learn, and then you talk to some people about this nowadays. I don't know. I don't really talk about this a ton, but I guess there's some people that like to pretend that this isn't a thing, that this isn't a known phenomena that we've always done. And if we've known that we've always done that, then why would we not assume that they're still doing it? And just, I mean, I'm sure these programs exist. I did not really do investigation for this particular presentation, but my point being just, it blows my mind that people don't seem to be aware that this is a normal occurrence that's been happening for decades, at least.
Bro, geoengineering's been around since at least 1891. Since that's the registered patent, that's the method of producing rainfall. Skywriting apparatus in 36, that's cool. Dissipating fog in 37. I'm just reading off a couple. Controlling weather. What? Literal process for controlling weather, 51. Method of crystal precipitation, General Electric in 51 as well. Smoke screen generator, that's neat. 49 must have been right before the moon missions. Aerial discharge, that must have been full of particulates. That was 1949. Metal chloride screening, dude, everyone needs metal chloride screening. That's 52. Dude, it's like that doesn't exist. It's like no, the government literally tells you it exists and they flaunt it, and then they use your money to fund it, and then they publish the patents that they use their money to fund it, and they make money off that shit. And you guys don't eat. What do you mean not real?
Dude, this is killing me, man. Did you say that cloud seeding patent was in 1891?
He just posted the ball in the main chat.
So in 1891, before we even finished our western expansion and even had a chance to even build up San Francisco before it got crumbled down in 1906, we built up patent and started cloud seeding.
Dude, somebody should look up patent number 0462795. See what we get.
20 years after. So so 1871, Chicago burns down. 1891, we figured out how to cloud seed.
Right, dude? Isn't that weird?
Time sucks, man. If that was like a few years earlier, we might have saved Chicago.
Kidding. So that's it. So my list is accurate. And 1891, they had a patent for reducing rainfall. I surprised myself with how much I knew about this. The guy that turns out.
Dude, hey man, just what the I hear this now and I'm just like, how did I not correlate this? Oh, because we're just stupid kids out there just learning because we were told these guys are going to make us smart. We didn't challenge anything because that's what schools do is they teach us and they don't teach us to question anything.
Yeah.
But like they're like, dude, we don't mess with the weather at all, except for these 900 patents that we publicly filed that show how we manipulate the weather. But anything that you see in the sky that's different, that's because of you, you dirty Homo sapiens. That's because of you, you dirty farter, dude. Like you better be guilty. And honestly, Toby, when I was watching your video, I felt guilty. I was like, this is my fault. Wow. What am I doing? I'm so heartless. So it was good. It was really good.
I'm going to sell my drinking straws.
It's all just appeals to emotion. That's all they got. And it's crazy because they're still getting by on it. Like, how in the world?
That's how powerful emotions are.
Oh, dude, I noticed they're doing like the jumble trick. You know how like when they do like American Pickers when they're doing the bundle, right? They're like, all right, so I got Holocaust deniers and we got weather
Climate change deniers.
Yeah, it might as well be the same thing.
Did you like how they? Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting, especially when you consider just it's a very very interesting connection.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Yeah, exactly.
When they call me a Holocaust denier, I call them a manta.
I'll just disassociate you by association, bro. Hold my beer. I'm really good.
It's like I don't know why you. I'm like saying 6 million people didn't die, and you guys like on me for this, man. It's like they lived. Yay! Boo! Oh, I'm sorry. You think these people would be happy?
Like you're seeming pretty anti-Mediterranean language right now. Not everyone's up on the diction of the Semites. Whatever. Anti-Semitic.
You're talking about my cousin Avi. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Nathan Oakley, so I'm not sure if you're trying to do an accent or.
No, I'm just trying to be Jew.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait.
My cousin.
All right. Well, before we get too off topic there.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts or questions? We're about an hour in here. I think it's a good point at which, if there are no final thoughts or questions, we could wrap it up. But let's go ahead and just throw that out there. Last call for.
I have a question. I have a question.
Sir.
So, and it's in regards to coffee. Where can I get some brushtail coffee that isn't going to emit carbon and kill everyone and disturb the polar animals?
But it will.
I'm going to say risk.
Actually, I want to use this. I want to take this opportunity. This is perfect because over at Brushtail Coffee, we've been working really hard on a new certification, and basically, you've got a lot of different concerns when you go to buy coffee nowadays. Is my coffee organic? Do you guys have organic coffee? Is your coffee, is it fair trade? Is it equal trade? Is it shade grown? Is your coffee shade grown? Maybe most importantly, is your coffee Smithsonian bird friendly? That's another important certification you might want to check on with your coffee. Well, I don't know about you guys, but more important than any of those things is I want my coffee to not kill baby penguins. And so moving forward, there's going to be Brushtail Coffee's new certification is penguin cruelty free. So if you want your coffee to not have murdered baby brushtail penguins, then you're going to want to get it from us, Brushtail Coffee. And you can get that at brushtail.coffee. And if you have any questions about the beans, about, them being organic or whatnot, you can send me a message. Or if you have any questions at all about the coffee, shoot me a message. You can do that through brushtail.coffee or just pop onto the Discord server and shoot me a message here. But yeah, thanks, Alan, for that. Very excited to announce this big announcement. Looking forward to all the penguin lives that will be saved.
Save the penguins. I appreciate that. I got a question, man. So if I have a cup of water that's also ice in the water, when the ice melts, will the water overflow from my cup?
No.
If I cup and I fill this thing with ice and I put water all the way to the brim, and that ice melts, will my water overflow from the cup?
No, because they say ice takes up more volume for whatever reason with the way in which the molecular structure works out or whatever.
So it would actually recede a little bit?
Supposedly, yeah. Well, yeah.
Climate change is stupid.
Yeah,
That's a really good point. Hey, hold on a second.
Yo, there was a YouTube channel called Mr. Thrive and Survive, and he had this great time lapse of an ice cap melting in his cup, and it was, guys, it doesn't overflow. Spoiler.
Yo, perfect. That was a perfect ending. Cage. I didn't even get what you were going with that at first. Oh, nice.
But I just want to say, I'm gonna have to try this coffee because we gotta save those damn penguins, man.
Yep.
Shout out to Brushtail Coffee. We don't hurt penguins over here.
The other brand definitely does hurt penguins. They have a threshold, just so you guys know the difference.
Hey, whoa. For legal reasons, I have no idea what Shane just said about any other brands and their alleged what they do with penguins, but we specifically don't hurt penguins. We don't know we don't know what the other companies are doing if they're involved in penguin stuff. Like who knows, right? Who knows? But we definitely don't. So you can take our word for it. We're certified.
I'm totally not saying that Folgers could possibly. I don't know if they do it or anything, but I hate penguins.
Yep, something like that.
Folgers does hate penguins. That's fact.
Not an official position of this channel, but you heard it here.
It's just a rumor. I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. I can't substantiate it or nothing like that. That's what I heard too.
Oh, geez, oh, Pete. All right. We are definitely wrapping